Hi, I've got a 2003 Oldsmobile Alero with a 2.2 liter Ecotec engine, and the other day it just suddenly started shimming, shaking, losing power, couldn't accelerate, felt like one of the cylinders was misfiring. So I got the codes read on it, and it's cylinder number 1 is misfiring, which is the one on the far left side, I am told. And I went to O'Reilly's and picked up a bunch of parts that I'm going to sequentially here replace, hopefully in an order from less expensive to more expensive, so I can return as much of this as possible. Let me turn on the engine. You can hear what it sounds like, and then we'll start replacing things. All right, here we go. Let's see if I put it. Well, I don't know if the video shows it, but I put my hand on the engine, the whole thing's just kind of shaking, tremoring. Okay, to get to the ignition module, we need to remove this retaining bracket, which is held by a 10mm screw here, or bolt, which is what I'm going to remove now. Okay, I've got the retaining bracket for those cables off to the side here. It's just loose. And now we can remove the 4 10mm bolts that hold the ignition module onto the engine. I'd pre-loosen these just so you know, because they were a little snugger than what they seem like now. They didn't really snap too much when I started loosening, because I had already done that previously. Okay, before you pull this cover off, you need to release this connector. So you get your screwdriver down in there and lift, and then pull at the same time. Let's see if I can do that. And hold the camera, which I probably can't do. Try. Alright, so I lifted up that little finger there, and now it's released, and I can pull the whole thing out. There's the connector. Alright, so now this module should come out, which should come out freely there. There we go. And these are the spark plug boots that you can twist off. Okay, and these are purchased separately. So at this point, I don't know on this first cylinder over on the right whether it's the spark plug, the boot, the ignition coil, which is built into this housing, or ultimately the ignition module here. So I think what I'll do is I'll start by replacing the boots and see if I can get the engine to stop misfiring, and if not, then I will replace the spark plugs, and then we'll continue from there. So I opted to buy all 4 boots. You could buy just one. These were like $11.99. I think I could have gotten one for $4. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up and replace just the one now, and we'll see if that fixes the problem. Okay, so these boots come, I didn't realize there wasn't really much to this, but really it's, if you look through it, there's nothing there. It's just a rubber boot along with this spring that fits down through it. So I'm kind of doubtful that the spring is really the issue here, and I'll go ahead and replace this, and then I got to shove that down further, but I'll replace that and see if the misfiring goes away. I'm guessing that it will not. Okay, so I used a screwdriver and just shoved that spring down in there, and it kind of sits down in there. So now I'm ready to replace it. So I'm going to stick it on here. Well, I'll turn off the camera, and we'll try it out here in a second. Okay, the new boot is on, and I'm going to reassemble it now. All right, I've got it reassembled with the boot on the far left replaced, and I'm going to power up the engine and see if the misfiring is gone. Betting that it won't be. Alright, here we go. Oops. What are you doing? Alright, here we go. Nope, no different. Still shimmies. Alright, so not the boot. I will change the spark plug next. Alright, this is the spark plug that I'm going to replace. It comes pre-gapped at 0.47 inches, and for the Alero 2003 2.2 engine, the gap is to be 0.42, so I had to tap that down just a little bit. And I'm going to now replace the spark plug on cylinder 1. Okay, well here's something interesting I found. Now I don't know the history on this car, this is not my car, but if you look at the spark plug I just pulled out, it's got a gaping gap. The point is completely gone on it, and I don't know if you can, I zoom in if you can see this, but it's completely flat there. Okay, so I don't know, I'll pull all the other plugs because they're probably of a similar age, but I'm wondering if this might be the culprit. Hoping so, because then this would be a cheap repair. Alright, let's go try it. Make sure everything's out of the way here. Okay, I'm hoping this is going to solve it. Alright, you think it's going to fix it? I am thinking it's going to fix it. No! It didn't. Well, okay, let me put it in reverse and hold the brake and put it under some load, see what happens here. No, definitely didn't fix it. Alright, I think what I'm going to do, even though it said cylinder 1 was the culprit, that's what the code said, I think I'm going to replace all 4 spark plugs and all 4 boots, and then we'll try it again. And then if that doesn't fix it, then I'm afraid I'm going to have to replace the ignition module or the ignition coil housing. All right, I'll be back in a bit after I've got the 4 spark plugs and the 4 boots replaced. All right, well, I pulled the 4 plugs and replaced them, and as you can see, all of them had nearly all of their points gone, so they needed to be changed really badly anyway. Okay, and I've gone ahead and gotten all 4 new boots out. I don't think the old ones really needed to be replaced, but since I opened the package to get the one out, I think it was $11, and I'm just going to replace these as well. There was some, I think this is silicone that came with it. I used a little bit on the springs. I think it's just to help them slide in, which it did help. They slid in a lot easier. And I had bought this spark plug boot grease, but I decided not to use it. I don't think it's necessary here. I don't see any evidence of it being on the original one. So, all right, I'm going to take this, install it back on the engine with the new spark plug, and hope that this might be our solution. Okay. Where are my tools? Okay. So this doesn't really pop down in there. I don't think that that's a problem. I think after it's seated for a while, the boots kind of eventually kind of slide down over the spark plugs, and you get that more suction-y feel like I had the first time I removed this. I had to kind of pry it apart to get the boots to release, but maybe that happens only after this has been in place for a little while. I'll tighten these down more later if this turns out to be the final solution. Okay, let's make sure everything's out of the way. Okay, so this has 4 new spark plugs, 4 new boots, original ignition coils in the header module there, and the original electronic ignition module. So let's go try it. I don't know if I'm very helpful here, but we've got everything on hand, so we'll just keep changing stuff till it fixes it. Here we go. Nope, it's still there. That's amazing. You know, it's amazing that it ran as well as it did considering how bad those plugs were. So I don't regret changing the spark plugs because they needed to be changed anyway. So the question is, do I change the ignition module or do I change the header with the ignition coils? And the price, where's my receipt here? Wow, it smells really gassy. And clearly there's at least one of those cylinders that is not burning because I can smell the fumes pretty strong. Where's my receipt down in here? Okay. So let's see, take a look at this. So the ignition control module is $87, and the ignition coil, that whole assembly on top, is $82, $83. And the problem is, this guy's in a sealed bag and this one's in a taped bag, and I'm thinking about what could I return if I don't, what can I try out and still return if I don't need it. And because there's two ignition coils on this assembly, it would seem that, and the mechanic I'd talked to previously when I first got the codes read on here, said that typically when one cylinder goes out, if it's the ignition coil, two cylinders go out, right? Because there's one ignition coil that feeds two cylinders, and the computer code said just cylinder one was off. So I think I'm going to go with the ignition module. So we're going to replace this and hope that this fixes it. If it doesn't, my last go-to will be this, and we will be out our total $228, well, plus tax, $244. But hey, at least it's labor-free, right? So let's see whether the ignition module solves the problem. All right, let's remove the ignition module. Oops, drop that. Come on. Okay. See how easily he comes unplugged. There we go. All right, that's what that looks like. Looks good and clean. And this is what's underneath it. That connector looks good and clean as well. All right, let's go over here to the one that we have. I've got new screws here. I'm deciding whether I need to put some dielectric grease on there. Should I not? Yeah, I have this. Maybe I'll stick a little bit of this on there. Okay, I'm not a mechanic, so I don't know whether that's good or not. I will put a little bit on there, and then we'll assemble it. All right, I've got the new module here. Set it down here. Push it in place. All right. I am hoping this is going to be it. Oh, sorry, I didn't strip that. That's not good. Okay, shouldn't have done that with the screw gun. Where's my hand tighten that? Ooh, I think that kind of stripped. Oh, hopefully that's good. Okay. Well, is it gonna fix it? Let's go see. Ah! Can you believe it? It still hasn't fixed it. Oh wow. You know what? What if it has nothing to do with the ignition? What if it has to do with the injectors? I just thought of that now. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, okay, well, I'm this far into it. I might as well replace the ignition coils. I cannot imagine that it's ignition coils. Huh. This is disappointing. So if I change the ignition coils and it doesn't fix it, I'm out $280. And we still haven't fixed the problem. And maybe I should have just taken it to a mechanic and they would have diagnosed it properly. Okay, well, let's change the header ignition coils there and see what happens. And the rain is starting. Okay, well, I was talking to one of my daughters, and they were concerned about this video being boring, and so I told them they could help me make it a little more interesting. So I think we're going to have a little interlude here. You got something entertaining, something that's going to make this video less boring? Look at that. Look at that. That can't be boring. Look at you go. Bring, bring, bring. That is only after about, what, 8 hours of practicing. I used to not be able to do more than 6 or 7 bounces. Whoa, look at you go. Woo! That's entertaining. All right. You got a knock-knock joke?
Oh, okay. What do you call the high school?
What do you call the what?
What do you call the high school?
The highest school?
Yeah. High school.
High school. Ah. Do you have a knock-knock joke?
And a top.
Hmm?
What do you call a lap and a top?
What do you call a lap and a top?
A laptop.
Whoa! Now that's entertaining. All right, let's go back to the boring, try to fix this car of your sister's. All right?
Can I watch that thing?
Later, yep. All right, see you later.
Bye.
All right, off with the old one. I feel okay if I get some confidence this is going to do it, but I don't. I have a bad feeling that I'm going to be 280 bucks into this and no closer to having this functioning. Yeah. Okay. All right. There we go. Alright, here's the new one. Oh, no cool logo on the top. That's what you get for aftermarket. Okay. Transfer these guys. I'm going to turn the camera off. I'll transfer the boots to the new one and then transfer the control module and we'll install it. See what happens. Alright, I've got the new cover with the ignition coils, with the new engine, controller module, and the new boots, and the new spark plugs. Everything new and aftermarket. And we shall see. You can tell I'm not very hopeful at this point. All right. Here we go, moment of truth. Girls, you think it's gonna work?
What?
You think the motor's gonna work now?
Okay.
You think so?
Yeah.
They think it's gonna work. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Hey, you're right! Yay! You did it! It works! Yes, it works. Well, it's not doing the shimmy shimmy thing anymore.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, this guy here was the culprit. And this was $83. But I ended up changing the control module for another, what was it, $87, $86, and that was not necessary. And the boots were not necessary either. So I guess I spent an extra $100 for parts I didn't need, and I think I'm now gonna, well, I'll go see if I can return them, but I doubt I will, in which case I'll sell them on eBay or something. All right, let me put this in drive. Keep my foot on the brake. Yeah, I'm giving it a little gas. I don't feel it shimming. So I think that was the ticket. Well, all's well that ends well, as Paul Ingalls said on Little House on the Prairie. So that's good. All right, well, hopefully with my girls' intermission there, this video proved a little entertaining and informative for those of you who are novices like me at doing car repair. All right, bye for now. All right, here's my expense recap. So I spent $215 plus tax, but I could have fixed the problem for as little as $117, or even, I guess, less if I ignored changing the plugs, which really did need to be changed. So that was a good catch. But I didn't need the boots for $12, and I did not need the ignition controller for $87. I'll try to return the ignition controller to O'Reilly's, but if they don't take it, then I'll try to sell it online and get some of the money back. So there you have it. That's my lesson in fixing a faulty cylinder 1 firing on a 2003 Alero. And yeah, so it was fun. Bye. Ah! No! What now? Old controller onto the new ignition coil with the new spark plugs and the new boots, and they won't run. So what should we do? I'm gonna put the new controller back on. Unbelievable. I am not having good luck. Alright, I got the new controller back on there with everything else new. I don't know what to expect now. It should work. It did before, but why it doesn't work with the original controller, I don't know. How about that? How about that? That doesn't make sense. So the new ignition coil does not work with the old controller, but it works with the new controller. Sounds like a conspiracy theory to me, making sure that when you replace stuff with aftermarket, you got to use all aftermarket. Well, I guess the silver lining here is that I can feel good about having spent the extra 80, what is it? The extra $87 for the aftermarket ignition controller. Seems like I need that after all. And I think I'm just going to leave it on there and call this done. So there you have it. New valve cover, ignition coil with new controller, new plugs, and new boots. And we're back and running. That's it. Hopefully. Bye for now.